Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 22 My Team career mode. This is episode number 50 today for the Italian Grand Prix in Season 3. If you guys did miss the previous one at the Dutch GP, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one uploaded a couple of days ago before last weekend. And it was a rather thrilling one as we got a 10th different winner in the 11 races we've had so far. Of course, we had the repeat winner of Sebastian Vettel back at the Belgium Grand Prix 2 episodes ago, but last time out it was glory for Alpine finally making up for Baku. Spoiler alert, Sergio Perez getting his first win with this new team this season. It was a solid race for us. Some really exceptional battles with Verstappen and Perez at one point, and we got our second only ever podium this season, which sounds really weird to say, but that's just the evidence of how much of a challenging and competitive season this has been, and how much of a stonking job our teammate Sebastian Vettel has been doing on the opposite side of the garage to be leading this championship, whilst we sit in P5, 26 points away from him in this championship, and we are still waiting on that engine HQ facility to be built. We purchased it only last episode, but because of the closeness of these races in the actual calendar in real life, it's going to take at least one more episode for that HQ facility to come in and allow us to actually bring new upgrades to the car. Thankfully, it seems like all our rivals and teams around us are in a kind of plateau phase. Red Bull with a very subtle upgrade, it looks like, and McLaren as well, and Alfa Romeo at the bottom end getting ahead of AlphaTauri. So that'll be an interesting battle for them too, as those two teams try and get their way up and get a couple of points and make sure it's a strong, solid end to the season. You can see, actually, it's kind of a shame from the early promising start of Haas and how well they looked at the end of last season. They have really fallen flat in terms of upgrades. But yeah, thankful that the other teams around us aren't bringing too many ones. It seems just like one minor upgrade for Red Bull and McLaren. So that's going to help us just try and keep up with them. And hopefully with an extreme low downforce setup with low wings on the front and rear, we can actually still do very well. As of course, as we've said many times, it's going to be down to an individual performance with everyone being so close. But once that HQ facility comes in, oh boy, I'm going to be rubbing my hands together, because I reckon we can make this car a real monster in the last couple episodes when those engine upgrades come in, because that's what we've really been lacking, I think, is just pure engine power and also the ability to use ERS, because still even now, 3 seasons in, there are times in races where I've been down to single digits of ERS, and I'm sure Vettel has as well, where we're maybe just lacking that last little bit to keep up pace with our AI rivals. But in Q1, it was a bit of an odd story, because I went out and set one flying lap, wasn't happy with it, went out on the same set of tyres, and the tyres just had no grip, which you might think, why is it surprising? But because Italy has such low tyre wear, we've got so many tyre upgrades now, I was very surprised that the time just fell away on that second flyer. You know, there have been other races before in this season where I've actually done another time on the same scrub set, and we've actually found time still. So that was maybe a little bit worrying a little bit, but also just it's Q1, so it doesn't matter. We got through, thankfully, into the second part of qualifying, and it was a much better showing for us up in P1 early doors with Norris, Ocon and Russell behind. But as you can clearly see, you know, people like Albon still yet to even go out on their out lap to start their first flying lap in Q2. Like I said, we are lacking a bit of engine power, but I'm hoping we can still both make it through, and we do just about. Vettel hanging on for dear life, just getting on through, and now turning into usual suspects of Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton, both again, like they were in Zandvoort, being knocked out of Q2, both Alpines, Red Bulls and Ferraris through along with ourselves, and then just the lone McLaren of Pierre Gasly. I sense Alpine might actually be once again very strong around here, like they were at Zandvoort and Spa. Clearly, you know, their car is just working very well, these kind of circuits, but also I think their drivers also performing at a good level. You know, Ocon got that second place, Perez with the win. I think their drivers surely have got a bit of momentum and focus from those two results. So I imagine they're going to be strong here. But it's going to be a very interesting race, because no matter how this top 10 actually shakes out, the race will be very changeable just because of the slipstreaming nature of this circuit on this game. It is pretty much like pot luck in terms of you kind of almost want to be in second place on the last lap, depending on where you are, how close you are to the car in the lead, kind of, because the slipstream's that powerful. But as ever, still, we'll try and do the best job we can. That Q2 lap time was really great, you know, half a second ahead of second place, but I feel like it's going to be another Spa repeat where maybe that's a bit of false kind of, you know, hope of our pace today. I have dropped the wings extremely low because there is no rain for tomorrow's race, thankfully. So I'm kind of exploiting the setup as much as I can to extract as much straight line speed as I can from this car versus maybe our teammate Vettel, who might go for a more default setup. I don't know, but let's see. First lap time on the board. It's not quicker than Verstappen or Ocon, who go quicker. We're 4.5 tenths down from Verstappen, actually. So Verstappen pulling through again on Saturday, but then Leclerc comes in. Could it be a day for the home favourites? We're down to P10 now at the end of the session. We gain 8 tenths on our second flying lap, and that is going to be good enough to shoot us up to halfway house. P5 on the grid, but Perez and Leclerc were just too quick for us today. You know, both Alpines up there in the top 3, so this could be another very strong race for Alpine. They are really coming through solid at the end of this season. Could they even be a dark horse of upsetting some people in the championship order and the constructors maybe? Albon does well to be in P4, and the two championship rivals, Gasly and Vettel, struggling for ultimate pace in P8 and 9, although to be fair, only like 2 tenths away from where I was, so it is quite tight there. But like I said, you know, me as a player, I can really exploit going very low on the wings, on the downforce. So I suspect Vettel, I assume the AI use more kind of default, whatever the game would usually put you on when you load into the sessions. So I imagine Vettel's maybe running higher wings. That's maybe why he's not able to extract the same lap time around here as I am. So we've got to try and take this free gimme here of this kind of race where I can maybe do better than him and try and get some points on him, but also, you know, Gasly and just every driver ahead of me in the championship, which includes Leclerc and Albon, but they're ahead of me, so that's going to be a bit tougher. And you've also got the two Alpines in there. But as ever, trying to hopefully, like I did from that win at Baku, we didn't do it exactly in the very next race, but maybe this time, second time lucky. Can I take that second podium I got at Zandvoort and try and build on that with some confidence and just build some momentum for myself at the end of this championship? Let's see. Let's go to the grid.
Welcome back to one of only 2 countries that has held a race every year since the very first Formula One World Championship in 1950. It is, of course, Italy, one of the great racing nations, and it's time to get underway for the Italian Grand Prix. With top speeds reaching 215 miles per hour, only a few places can challenge Monza's crown as the fastest track in Formula One. Hard braking zones going into the 3 chicanes make up the majority of the 11 corners on this 3.6-mile circuit. And just in case the slipstream wasn't enough, 2 DRS zones will help encourage some close action. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. It's Sergio Perez on pole today, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Ocon, Albon, the owner driver, and Oscar Piastri, Russell, Gasly, Vettel, and Max Verstappen, Norris, Hamilton, Yuki Tsunoda, and Liam Lawson, Sainz, Magnussen, Felipe Drugovich, and Mick Schumacher, Bottas, Schwartzman, Stroll, and Théo Pourchaire. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat is Anthony Davidson. And our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching out for as they head into turn 1?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking parts. You have to hope that everyone is able to get off to a clean start, and this is possibly the trickiest part of the entire race. So many drivers in such a small space, and finding your braking point into turn 1 as well. It's a testament to the driver's skill that there aren't more incidents.
The Italian Grand Prix is pretty much one of the simplest races in terms of talking about the strategy. It is going to be a one-stop for everyone. Albon's got a bit different with the soft compound tyre. We're on the medium. Does that mean we could maybe go medium to softs maybe in this race? Potentially, but apart from that difference of the tyre compounds, it really is just about out hard and fast racing, keeping in the slipstream and knowing when to pick our battles to not lose the slipstream of the cars ahead, to remain in this fight, and can we go for maybe another podium? We're close enough in P5 there, but we've got some really quick cars around us. Here we go then to 5 red lights. The Italian Grand Prix, a Ferrari on the front row alongside the Alpine. 5 red lights are out, and we're underway, and last race's race winner has a slow getaway off pole, and the Ferrari might lead, but Albon on the soft compound, electric start for him. We're boxed in with Piastri on the inside, making a big lunge. The two Alpines are side by side. That's never going to end well, as we knew in Baku. But I think the Ferrari has lost the lead. Albon leads the way, so the decision to go on soft tyres has paid massive dividends for him right now on the opening lap. The Ferrari of Leclerc in second place. Piastri trying to get up into third place, side by side with Perez. We have to be very cautious, because if we stick our nose in here too early, we're going to get caught up, and there's always going to be some chaos here with these slow corners coming from such rapid speed. So we're just taking our time and patience to overtake the cars ahead and even have a go. I mean, it's not sure we'll overtake them, because we know the Alpines are rapid in a straight line, but because of my setup today, I've gone as low as I ever have this entire season on my front and rear wing. So I'm hoping that's going to help us there, as Gasly is pushed down the order. It's been a slow start for our two championship leaders in the top two. Gasly down to P9, Vettel down to P12. What is going on for them? Verstappen up into P8 ahead, and Vettel is being attacked by Lewis Hamilton. The two of them side by side in the entry of Parabolica, but Vettel behind now and back down to P12 as he tried to get the Mercedes car. Meanwhile, further up the road, we're now getting a tow on Ocon. Perez defending against Piastri. We're going to take this nice and easy into turn one, actually braking a bit early just to make sure we don't lock up and have any contact with Ocon, even though Ocon does make contact with me on the rear end, a bit too over-aggressive as he has been a couple of times this season. But ultimately, we're into P5, so we're back to our grid position, annoyingly, after all of that. And now we can try and follow Piastri through on Perez. It looks like the Ferraris are very punchy, and they've come out for their home race here to try and perform. They didn't do so well in their first home race at Imola, if I remember correctly, so maybe this time, second time lucky, they can do well. But yeah, very odd, you know, Vettel and Gasly both on the mediums, like most drivers. You know, obviously I know Albon did very well on the softs, but it's not like they've chosen the hard compound or anything like that. So, and they're on the same compound as most. So I don't actually know why they started off so slow. Although Gasly making a move now on Liam Lawson. I think that was actually more him defending, sorry, on Liam Lawson. So actually Gasly may have even lost one more position there. So what is going on for our two championship rivals in 1 and 2 in the championship at the moment? Right now, this is amazing news for Albon and Leclerc, who are 3rd and 4th in the championship, because they're 1 and 2 right now. So could this blow the championship open for those two drivers at the sharp end, as we now try and have a go at Piastri? But Piastri has other ideas. He wants to get Perez. We move from left to right, just trying to find any kind of room, but instead just having to sit back and watch this fight and watch Piastri be squeezed out by Sergio Perez. And now because of that, could we have a run on the Ferrari? We're in the tow, we're gaining, and we're using a lot of ERS here. Piastri goes defensive on the inside, we go to the outside, so close. Piastri goes into the back of Perez, and we have to take avoiding action, because if he turned in a bit too early, as we were going to, we'd have just gone straight into the side of the Ferrari. So instead now, we're back down to P6, because Ocon slips through, and I'm almost now caught up, or I am caught up by Russell, Verstappen, and Gasly in a train, and then a bit of a gap then to Vettel still behind Liam Lawson. But Ocon now having a go at the Ferrari. Piastri seems to be struggling with the pressure now, and Perez is far and away in clean air. So this is crucial for the next part of this race. I need to get past these two as soon as I can. So we're going for the double pass, a slipstream on the Ferrari. He's got a broken front wing. He'll hold up Ocon, and we make 2 overtakes in 1. And now I push as hard as I can with the ERS, what I can do on the main straight, to try and push away from Ocon and chase after Sergio Perez. There is 1.5 seconds, so we're out of DRS right now. But if we're quick, we can catch Perez, because he's not got DRS, crucially off Leclerc. So we're kind of equalising that kind of manner. The only annoying thing is Ocon might get DRS off me and might follow me through. But back at behind for our teammate, Sebastian Vettel is finally making moves. Maybe it was just a case of getting comfortable with the car, or the fuel coming out a little bit. He's now into the points now, up into P9. Good overtake on Liam Lawson on the outside of turn 1. Can we try and match him by making a move at turn 1? And Perez, he goes defensive. We go to the outside, a lunge, but then Perez does well to try and outbrake us, but ultimately we get the elbow out and make our car as wide as possible to get up into P3. And now the two Alpines are side by side. This always ends up in fireworks, but the two surely will want to work together to try and close me down and annoy my life and not let me get away. Ocon down the inside. Oh, he's gone too deep. He's spun us round. Ocon is out of this Grand Prix. We've spun the car around at a 360 to get ourselves back around the right way. We almost crashed into Vettel as we span the car around, and the full course safety car is now out because of that incident. But that was all from Esteban Ocon, overcooking it once again, as he did in Baku versus his teammate, although this time, instead of hitting a wall, he hit me. He hit another car. I mean, we're very lucky there to have not actually got any damage on the front wing or even the rear. I was surprised. I was expecting to hit my heads-up display and see there's rear wing damage, but no. Looks like Ocon just hit me at the right place to not get myself any damage, but it takes himself out, and that is the replay then. And you can see there, whilst I try to spin myself around, my tyres were so hot that I almost spanned my rear end into Vettel. But it looks like, even though Vettel gained positions there, as Verstappen comes in off the soft compounded tyre, Albon comes in, so both Red Bulls started on softs, and they now go to hards under this safety car. But the thing is, for the rest of us on these mediums, like I said, could a medium to soft compound strategy be on? The only reason Albon and Verstappen are pit now is because of this safety car. It's a free pit stop for them to get onto a hard compound. But I reckon they would have gone soft to medium, and I think the rest of us can all still do medium to softs later on in this race, and these mediums still have so much life in them, so none of us come in. But yeah, Vettel ahead of me, although he's gained that free position and a couple of free positions because of the Red Bulls, he's got a 5-second penalty. I imagine it's because when I ghosted, he was technically overtaking me under yellows, even though the ghosting system would have allowed him to overtake me. So I think that's where he's cropped up. So our teammate unintentionally has tripped up over ourselves, basically. So it's kind of a little bit my fault, but also not my fault because I couldn't control me ghosting in that situation. But Vettel's making the most of it as he makes a lovely overtake on Russell straight away at turn 1. Meanwhile, we were left floundering as we struggled to get on the power and actually power slided off Parabolica. But you make up for it with a kamikaze and wonderful send on Russell just before Ascari. That made up for that poor exit off the safety car, and now we're underneath Sebastian Vettel's rear wing. It's crucial for us to try and overtake him and just get away, because ultimately he's going to fall behind us with that 5-second penalty. So really, ideally, he should be letting us by with not too much of a fight, because I can do more in this race than he can without that 5-second under my head, for the pit stop. So here we go. ERS activated. No DRS yet. It's now enabled, but we don't need it. We're going to push ahead. But now, a second safety car has been deployed. And that right there is a disaster for every one of us who didn't pit under that first safety car. Because now, that whole idea of going on to softs later has been ruined, because now it would be silly not to pit under this lap 10 safety car, because now is the kind of pit stop window potentially to go onto hards, and you'd rather get the free pit stop than still not coming in. But this is why we got a safety car. Bottas retiring from this race, and Max Verstappen! Oh no! Oh, Max Verstappen breaks his front wing. He's already made one pit stop. He'll have to pit again under this safety car to change that front wing as he crashes into the back of Bottas. Wow. So there's pretty much now only one car benefiting from that early free pit stop under that first safety car, and that's Albon. That's Albon's Red Bull, but Leclerc's in, I am in. Vettel's really going to suffer here, because not only does he have to double stack with me, he has to also serve the 5-second penalty. But I wish there was a way for me as a teammate to somehow avoid that, but there is no avoidance of this now, because I have to pit on this lap. I would be stupid not to. And it goes the same for so many other drivers going on to the hard compound tyre, basically matching what Albon's already done. But of course, he went earlier on that first round of safety car pit stops. But the reason why the likes of myself and Leclerc gambled on not pitting under that one is because, like I said, if this second safety car didn't come out, we could have easily done medium to softs, and that actually would have made us quicker, a lot quicker than anything Albon could have done on the hards at the end of this race. But this second safety car has actually screwed us over. For once, I'm actually not happy as safety cars come out, because that's basically ruined our strategy, because now, myself, Leclerc, we've all got a lot of work to do now from down the order. Gasly's now ahead of us, and he's on hard, so he's jumped us, and he was down in P9. We're up in the top 3 position, so yeah, I mean, it's even more pain for Sebastian Vettel, as I think he's all the way down in now P17 or 18, so it's a long day now ahead of us as we resume with half this race left to go for us Audi boys into turn 1, cautious, and that's going to allow us to send one round the outside of Leclerc and Gasly. Remember, Leclerc was way ahead of us in this race, so we've done well to get ahead of Leclerc as he was boxed in with Gasly. And now this is important, not only for us as Audi, but this is important for the championship. If I can get ahead of Gasly and try and annoy him and stay ahead of him, that just helps out Vettel, getting him less points versus him as his rival. And we do get ahead of him and get up into P10, but of course I've got my own selfish motive because I want to try and go even further, because we've got Piastri being held up by a very slow Williams car that actually may have not pit yet, along with I think Mick Schumacher, Carlos Sainz there. So we've got a couple of people odd out here ahead of us, and they could help us by slowing people down, like I said with Piastri. He's on the softs though, so that's a very weird tyre choice. He's definitely not going to the end, but look at that. He gets held up so much by the Williams, so the Williams doing me a massive favour here as we'll pull on the left-hand side and try and get the double overtake. Piastri gets boxed in, and all of a sudden we're up into P8, comfortably back in the points, but still more work to do ahead of us. Oh, slow cars! Why are they slow? Perez caught up behind Magnussen and Schumacher. Why were they going so slowly? Schumacher and Magnussen come in. I get an illegal overtake on Perez, because to be fair, I did cross the white line completely to avoid a horrendous accident there, but we'll just come back at Perez, and so now in a flash, we're fighting Checo for P2, just like we were in Zandvoort, and again, like the opening laps, we'll get the elbow out on that left-hand side to get up into P2. So we've kind of recovered everything we lost in that race, apart from maybe fighting Albon, but I feel like he was always going to be a bit further ahead, such was the pace difference and the gap he had anyway at the front, so I can't complain whatsoever. Even Vettel, he's back up into P6, so all of a sudden, a lot of us that thought we were going to get caught out by that second safety car have come back into this race. The only one that's really gained anything actually then is Albon. A stroke of luck by choosing the soft compound at the start of this race has seen him now get a commanding lead of 4.5 due to those safety car pit stops, and now behind lap 15 then, fighting going on for Gasly as he tries to desperately climb up the order whilst he's got his nearest championship rival right behind him. And I think after that battle with the Ferrari, potentially has he picked up a little bit of damage, because he looks quite slow now, and Vettel is going for a crucial move to seal more points ahead of him in the championship, but he's actually shut off. Gasly does very well to defend and shut the door just before Ascari, so maybe there is still some pace in that McLaren. It's just a case of in sector 1 he was shoved off a little bit by Leclerc. Vettel though goes for another move round the outside of Parabolica. What a move there for Sebastian Vettel, made it look so piss easy as Gasly's down to P6, but he doesn't come in for a pit stop, so he's got no damage. So I don't know, maybe he's got a mechanical issue that's slowing him down that we've not heard about, because he does look quite slow as he's now got the AlphaTauri of Liam Lawson right up his gearbox, but the moves aren't done yet, and Vettel is on a charge. He's coming alive in this second part of the Italian Grand Prix and looking to overtake his old Ferrari teammate on the outside again. He's loving that move, and he's got such confidence in the car, it seems, these days, and he makes a wonderful overtake up into P4 now, and could even try and maybe chase after Perez. Who knows? We are actually doing very well. We're keeping the gap to about 1.5 to 1.9 ahead of Perez as Leclerc comes back at Vettel though. It's not over. The Ferrari's determined to try and keep a top 4 at least. They may have lost a podium chance, Ferrari, but they're determined to try and still get a top 4, but Vettel holds strong and remains in that P4. Meanwhile, Verstappen, despite losing his front wing, making an extra free pit stop under the safety car, he's actually coming back through with so much pace on the medium tyres he's put on for the second pit stop, and he's now up into P7 ahead of Liam Lawson, and will now be on the back of Pierre Gasly pretty soon. So could Verstappen make a shock recovery after losing his front wing? That'll be quite a recovery drive, but Liam Lawson actually coming back at him a little bit with the AlphaTauri car, but Verstappen's got other ideas. It's a big bold dive on the inside of Gasly, and he just made it look so easy. Gasly, he's just got no confidence in the car. What is going on with him as he now continues to flounder? Lap 19 all remains the same in the top 6, but the only thing changing is Gasly going down the order. This was meant to be a strong race for McLaren. They look like they were the closest they ever have been on the R&D chart to Red Bull, and yet Lando's down in P15, and Gasly is fending off this sister Red Bull team, AlphaTauri, to just about stay in P7. But for how much longer? End of lap 19. Not even Lawson, even Russell could be looking for an overtake. But look at the rookie go. In his first ever season in Formula 1, he's already got 2 podiums this year, and now has just overtaken a title contender, and Gasly is gonna come in now. So, confirmation. Was there damage all along? Maybe somewhere on the front wing that got worse as he got over the curbs, potentially? We'll never know, because I didn't get any radio message about it, but it means now Tsunoda's up into P9, Drogovic in the Alfa Romeo in P10, as Russell tries to get Lawson to get up into P7 to try and get any points for Mercedes in Ferrari's backyard. But as you can clearly see, after so many laps after that second safety car, it is all stationary here, with Max Verstappen P6, Leclerc P5, Vettel P4, Perez third, myself second, Albon first. But you can see now Verstappen is behind those cars. Vettel has overtaken Leclerc once again, so they actually swapped positions. Sorry, I didn't even notice that, but Verstappen, it won't matter, because Verstappen is now looking to make nearly a double overtake, because he got very close to Vettel's rear end there, but he makes the overtake on Leclerc, and he's now going to go chasing after Vettel. So this could be a supreme comeback, and at a very crucial time in terms of the constructors fight. Remember, Red Bull were third, I believe, behind McLaren, but with McLaren having no points today, this 2 top 4 finishes could be a real strong push for them late on at a crucial late stage of this championship. But Vettel is determined to try and get this position back for P4, to try and limit the damage to Albon. He's already got ahead of Leclerc and Gasly, so he's actually done very well still in terms of his championship fight, but just trying to limit the damage, I guess, to Albon, who's going on probably to win this race with lap 25 now, only 2 laps to go. But it's a third overtake round the outside of Parabolica. He literally is loving that corner, it seems, but it won't matter, because Verstappen comes back at him down the main straight as they go on to the second last lap of the Grand Prix, side by side into turn 1. Will Vettel have the grip to keep this through? Remember, Verstappen on the medium, so ultimately I feel like Verstappen should actually finish this move off, but Vettel's so determined to try and limit the damage of points versus his rivals that he will go back and attack Verstappen for a last time onto the last lap of the Grand Prix. Vettel with DRS on the outside again, but he locks up. Oh, he locks up. We've seen this before, you know, just like Canada when he tried to attack us on the last lap. That's the only real chink in Vettel's armor, it would seem, this season, is that if he's trying to go for a desperate move on the last lap, he seems to crack under pressure a little bit. So let's hope for his sake the championship doesn't come down to the last lap maybe at Abu Dhabi, because then he may be in trouble. But apart from that, he's been supreme. Even today, the overtakes he's done have been insane. To recover from P12 in such a competitive grid is mega, but it's not meant to be for the top 4. He'll have to settle for P5. Verstappen up into 4th, Perez 3rd, myself 2nd. It was a pretty bland second half of the race, I'm not going to lie, because I had enough pace with the low wings to keep Perez at an arm's length, but Albon was in a different planet today, and he dominated this Italian Grand Prix and will come through for his 2nd win of the season here in Ferrari's backyard. Albon wins this race and does a number to get him back into this championship fight, and a number on Vettel, Gasly and Leclerc's championship points and standings, I'm sure. But it's another podium. It's our 3rd podium of the season and our first back-to-back podium sequence. That is promising. That is improvement.
Red Bull pulling out all the stops today. What a great win. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sport that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win.
It's a very strong race for Albon, one he needed, to be honest, after a couple of questionable results and just, some difficult periods for Red Bull as a whole. But it was a very strong race for both of them because, Verstappen, remember his recovery. If he didn't have that crash, it could have been a 1-2 for Red Bull, with the pace he was showing late in that race. But what a race for Albon. And another really strong race for Perez. Gets another podium. Not quite the win from Zandvoort, but still a very solid third place. For us, though, that's great. A third place to a second place. Could we, dare I say, build the momentum and look to try and win the next race? I don't know. Gonna have to see. I don't know how much of a gap there is from Italy to Singapore. Maybe there's time to bring in an engine power upgrade that could try and help that kind of cause. But in the championship then, Vettel still leads the way though. But now Albon climbs from 4th to 2nd and is up and only 4 points behind Sebastian. Leclerc 12 points back. Gasly 14 now all of a sudden. So it's a real tough race for Leclerc and Gasly to lose that many points to their rivals. And they're going to have to come back and answer for it if they want to stay firmly in that championship fight. For us, we're bridging that gap with that third podium today. And we're as close as we ever have been to one of the top 4 drivers in a while there. With how close we are to Gasly in terms of points. So if we can continue this run of good results, we could slowly creep into it at the death. But I don't want to get ahead of myself too much already. We're going to have to see how Singapore goes. But like I said, big race for Red Bull. They get up into 2nd place. Remember how poor they were for a lot of this season, and now all of a sudden, they're the closest team to give us a challenge. In the Constructors, maybe, they're only just ahead of McLaren, so that's still going to be a closely fought one. But you can clearly see Red Bull are coming strong at the right time, where it matters at the end of the season. But that was a bit of a topsy-turvy one, especially you've got to remember, we got spun around at one point. We're facing backwards after that collision with Ocon, and somehow we've come through to still get a podium. So, testament to those low wings and the pace we showed here today. Can we continue it next time out? You're going to have to find out then. If you did enjoy this one, hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And if you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.